and welcome back to Hoover and Espresso. Today we are going to review the 5th episode. We're halfway through series 11 of Doctor Who, the Tsuranga Conundrum. So obviously, first of all, before I get into the actual review of the episode, I'm going to say apologise for the lateness of last week's review. I was sick and I was not able to get it to you before or after the Tsuranga Conundrum aired, I believe. It went out just afterwards. But anyway, my review for the Tsuranga Conundrum, hopefully, if on time, will be up on Tuesday, if not Wednesday. Hopefully this time. No delays. I was sick. Sorry, guys. And I hope that you enjoyed last week's, well, the special Halloween video. I know it wasn't technically Halloween by the time it went out, but it was the thought that counted. I mean, I put a lot of effort into that video, so your support really helps me. I mean, I dressed up as Spider-Man. It was such a bad joke, but it was good and all the same. But anyway, yeah. Today we're reviewing the Tsuranga Conundrum, which was on BBC One last night. For me, I'm filming this on a Monday, usually. But of course, spoilers, if you have not seen the Tsuranga Conundrum, it is currently available on BBC iPlayer, which of course you will need a TV licence to use, otherwise they'll track you down, because you have no idea how easily they will track you down on that. I haven't done that personally, but I know they do that. But so yeah, spoilers, so check it out on BBC iPlayer, or I don't know, you might have recorded it, check it out there. And of course, whatever streaming service it is available on in the US. But spoilers from here on out. So, what were my thoughts of the 5th episode of Series 11, the Tsuranga Conundrums? Conundrum. I have to say, out of all the episodes, it was the one I was least looking forward to after I'd read the synopsis. The synopsis was a bit misleading, I have to say, in this case. It was like, they're putting it out to be very like horror type episode, which led to a pleasant surprise when we actually met the actual creature, which I'll get onto in a minute. But it wasn't the episode I was most looking forward to in the first place. It's out of all of the episodes so far, it feels the most like a filler episode, and it does feel very, in terms of plot wise, it's sort of reminiscent of episodes like In the Forest of the Night, or The Girl Who Died, or Closing Time, or, you know, episodes like that. And it's episodes that just get a pass, but aren't really anything special and don't have any really sort of meat of a plot, and are actually generally quite boring across the board. I mean, take In the Forest of the Night, it's a particularly bad one. I got a very feeling of Smile from season 10. I got that sort of sense and feeling from this episode. It was Far-Flung Future. Also a bit like Under the Lake and Before the Flood, Series 9 story. Except it seems like they've gone and got all the worst parts of the Ghost Monument and then shoved anything else in it. It's basically an example of everything that's been bad about the series so far, all in one episode. You have Jodie Whittaker's... I've said up to this point that she can be a bit annoying at points, and this is where you finally see how completely and utterly annoying she really is. In this episode, she is at her most annoyingness. I don't know how to say it, but never mind. And particularly that when she's going on, she waffles a bit throughout this episode. Particularly when they're talking about the antimatter drive. I thought that scene where she's praised it's so beautiful, and she's just like, shut up, we already know what you're talking about. She's just repeating dialogue. There's a lot of a theme of the characters repeating dialogue that have already been established throughout the series so far. I know a lot of people will see from a commercial point of view that the middle episode, if the series is going well up to that point, can be a jumping on point for other people to join in with the rest of the series. They did it with series 1, kind of. Episode 6 was more that jumping on point with Dalek. Basically, the entire plot up for the rest of the series and the series plot up until that point all got reverbalised in episode 6, so that people could jump on with episode 6, because obviously it's a big Dalek story, and of course they're trying to transfer that the rest of the story, so you know you were all up to date with the Bad Wolf thing, the Daleks, all ready for the series finale, so you'd continue watching it. And in this case, it is a similar case to Dalek, just done wrong. I mean, you have a similar concept, alien in a confined space. It's not so tense because the actual monster itself isn't as villainous as we all really thought, and they put it out to be a much bigger deal than it actually is. But yeah, it's not very well written, and this dialogue can come across as just, particularly Yaz's dialogue, I hate to say it again, but Yaz's dialogue just seems very simple, and it doesn't help that Mandip Gill's, bless her heart, delivery is not the best delivery. I know I'm not the greatest actor in the world, and I can't really criticise her because I'm not an actor, but her delivery is not, it's very dry. Her delivery is very dry and bare bones. Her performance is very bare bones. So yeah, it's quite hard, really, I think, under the circumstances for her. I think all the companions this week did not get the best, got shown in the best light. I don't think any of them did. Neither did the Doctor. I think the only person who really shines in this episode is the medic, who was quite good under pressure. She was very good with what she had. And Suzanne Packer's character, who was the General Eve or something, famous general of the Space Fleet. She was very good in this episode as well. I thought her performance shone throughout. And you did, although once again you don't get a great sense of emotion when she dies at the end of the episode, she's still a much better character than any of the other characters in the entire episode. The actual alien of the story, the Pating, which is spelt P-T-I-N-G, despite what my mum thinks, the Pating was not what I expected, to be honest. It's the kind of monster that you use in one episode and you never use again, I guess. It's a bit like a cross between, visually, a cross between Lilo and Stitch's Stitch. If you haven't watched the Lilo and Stitch film, it's basically this science experiment sort of gone wrong type thing, and it creates, where Jumba tries, the scientist Jumba tries to create an evil life form. He ends up creating something that's actually quite good and sweet, and my mum loves him. Yeah, I have a couple of Stitch things, I'm not gonna lie. I am a bit of a Disney fanatic, as in almost one part of, pretty much half of my bedroom has got Disney stuff in it. So as much as I'm glad they created a creature that's very much like that, and I really do hope they create a stuffed animal of it because it is adorable, I do not really want stuff like from Disney to cross over with Doctor Who. I don't really like it when they try to cross over things with science fiction, because although I like the concept of the Porgs and the Tribbles and now the Pating and the Adipose, they are just there to sell merchandise. I have a Tribble, I'm not going to lie, I have multiple Porgs, and I happily buy a Pating, but that's because I like that kind of thing. I know that a lot of Doctor Who fans will not like this, like a lot of Star Wars fans don't like the Porgs, and a lot of Star Trek fans don't like the Tribbles. And it always happens to every big sci-fi franchise. I can't think of a big sci-fi franchise that doesn't have a creature like this. I mean, Doctor Who has two now. I mean, if you think of the Adipose and the Pating, and I would say the Chumblies as well, because if someone put a Chumbly stuffed animal in my face, I would cuddle it forever. I love the Chumblies, and they don't even have a proper episode. They do have a proper episode, it's just that it doesn't exist, really. But yeah, his villainous demeanour, it kind of reminds me of the Slovene. Looks a bit like a cross between the Slovene Stitch. And the concept, very similar to the Stenza and the Absorbaloff, like you can't touch it, which has been done to death already in the series, kind of, because you couldn't really touch the Stenza. That's already been done twice. In 2 out of 5 episodes, you've had a monster you can't touch, which is not good. I don't want another monster in this series that has a monster you can't touch, because it's getting boring. Not only that, the concept of the Pating eating all that stuff, like eating everything. I swear it's been done at least in Doctor Who, if not in multiple science fiction franchises. I swear it's been done to death already. I can't name anything where it's been done, but I know it's been done to death. It's one of the things you just remember that concept. It's like, oh yeah, that's been done 1,000,001 times. Much like Stenza and most monsters we've had this series have already been done to death. I mean, we've had giant spiders in Doctor Who before. We've got the Rachnos, meant to be these 3 spiders. I mean, the Stenza is basically a Dalek or a Cyberman. And the only really kind of original monster in this series is the remnants from the Ghost Monument, and we didn't really get to see much of that. And Krasko is quite original, but he wasn't really the best part of that story, to put it bluntly. Now, there's a lot of guest characters that I don't think are very good in this episode. One thing I also want to highlight is the fact that there aren't that many patients on this giant hospital type ship that is supposed to be touring a certain sector of the universe for injured and ill people. Why aren't there anyone there apart from 2 other patients, apart from the actual people, our actual TARDIS team? Like, even if they had just been scanned, I mean, New Earth, you just have, you have a lot of patients and you feel like it's full hospital, right? There are more patients in that one hospital for one city than there are on that giant spaceship, which is supposed to hold thousands and make multiple runs of their tour thing. So why is there only 2 other patients on the ship? I mean, we didn't have to have conversations with them all. You could have just had extras and makeup or whatever. I mean, that's another thing. There are no actual really aliens that actually look alien. They're all humanoid. They're all humanoid characters that don't have any makeup at all. They just look like humans. So, like, even if we'd just seen the medic tending to their different needs in the hospital, in the little in-out patient, the assessment room, like, we wouldn't have had to see much of them. Just see a bit of them, you know? So yeah, that brings us on to the 2 characters that who do get highlighted. I think it was important to have one of the patients highlighted, which was the general, but the pregnant guy, we did not. Like, again, this is an example, like, we could have just had him in the background and it would have been fine, maybe. If we'd seen him in pain, maybe that would have been slightly more. I just don't see why we needed to highlight the pregnant guy. Like, out of all the people in the universe, in that sector, why is there just a random pregnant guy? Why do we even need a pregnant guy? It's just, why? Why did we ever need that concept in sci-fi? It's just why? What? Who wanted a pregnant guy? It's not like there's some group on Twitter or whatever. Like, they're all feminist and all that, like diversity and that. But when has anyone ever wanted a pregnant guy? There's just no explanation for why you'd want a pregnant guy. Just why? It doesn't feel alien because he's just a guy. He just looks like a human guy. He doesn't look like an alien, so it doesn't make really any sense. It's just, why? I mean, just why? I mean, that would just go over the top of some kid's head, normally. But I know he's an alien, but he doesn't look like one. He just looks like a human. I know he's another species, but it doesn't feel believable, and just why? But yeah, the android was also, again, very reminiscent to Mr. Data from Star Trek. He's a character in Star Trek Next Gen, if you wanted to look him up. He reminds me of him, and he reminds me of a budget version of him, and considering Mr. Data was a character on a TV show which is done in the 80s to 90s, I think. So you'd think it'd be a bit more well done, and again, I know he's an android, but as android delivery goes, he does not have very good android delivery. I mean, Mr. Data, you have to go watch Mr. Data. He's a hilarious character. I absolutely love him. He's got a cat. It's just so funny. That's an example of doing an android right, but the way they did it here, it just seems a bit poorly executed. The Doctor, as I said, feels a bit out of character and incredibly annoying. Like, she's going on, particularly at the start, where she's going around being selfish. It's like, Like, sure, the Doctor's had a bit of an accident, but she's never been like that before, or he's never been like that before when he's had an injury or whatever. I mean, look back at all the episodes of Doctor Who where he has had an injury. He hasn't been going around being selfish, so it just seems incredibly out of character as well. Yaz is sidelined again. But Yaz either needs to just go home or get to do something. I really hope next week we get her to do something. Because in the Retinas in the UK, we all thought, oh my god, Yaz is finally going to get to do something. But she doesn't. She just gets sidelined again. So she better get something to do in the Demons of the Punjab, or I am going to kill them. Because I thought Yaz was going to be like the central character from the way they were advertising her. So she's going to be the one that doesn't fail. She's going to be the best one. And then ended up the one that I thought wouldn't be the best one, Graham, ended up being the best one. So I don't know what's up with that. Like, you need to give Yaz something to do. Again, really. Ryan keeps repeating things already established about Grace and his dad. We don't really get much new here about him except for his mother. Yaz is again just there to ask questions for the viewer. Like normally it's alright in a companion if they're actually doing other stuff. Like with Bill, she asks her lots of questions, but she also does a lot as well, which is what Yaz really lacks. Graham has some great one-liners again, but also feels like he's repeating some things about Grace that we've already heard. Again, Grace seems to be the running theme throughout. I have to say also, before I forget, the Pating had really great visual effects actually. It looked great, and I'm not gonna lie, I want a plushie of it, as I said before. Kill for a Pating plushie. Again, this whole episode feels very Star Trek. It feels like a kind of wing of a starship on Star Trek, and they're all trying to get to the start. They have multiple Star Trek bases. Reminds me, like, it looks like a bit like DS9, sort of, but it's not the same in concept, I know. But it seems very Star Trek. The whole episode, like it's like the Pating could easily be a tribble infestation. It basically is a tribble infestation, but in one creature. Again with the Pating, like, are we going to see another Pating? I hope they would cut like maybe in the background, like the Porgs. They could be like, maybe the Doctor gets a pet Pating. Like, that would be good. Oh, that's where I've seen it. The idea of him eating everything is actually from Lilo and Stitch. So that's from the TV series. The TV series is quite fun too. And the sequels, like, nobody ever watched the sequels. They're actually pretty decent. The sequels are very nice actually. They're quite happy, fun little movies that you just shove on for, you know, fun. So yeah, very Star Trek, the whole episode. Fantastic. The alien world at the start as well. I'm just looking over my notes. I forgot to read about that. The alien world at the start looked fantastic. That junk world. It really shows you how much of a step in quality they've had since the 2011 episode, The Doctor's Wife, where they were on a junk planet, and then it looks. And then you jump to 2018, and the junk planet looks so much better. The sonic bomb scene also was quite well executed as well, the vibrations and everything, and the transition from that alien world to the nice, clean, beautiful sets of the spaceships. It really did feel the most, like, of any spaceship we've had on Doctor Who, it feels more like a spaceship than any other Doctor Who spaceship has ever felt, I think. But yeah, it looked brilliant. And very hospital, nice and clean. And the start of the episode got off quite strongly, and then it just lost itself. And again, the ending is just so tacked on. Like, Chris Chibnall's run is just going to be a series of episodes, apart from Rosa, that has a tacked on ending. And it's incredibly annoying. And it does feel repetitive and done before. It just does. But yeah. So let's talk about my overall thoughts. So, what were my overall thoughts of the 5th episode of Doctor Who Series 11, The Tsuranga Conundrum? It's actually a very poor episode. Out of the episodes so far, it's felt like the weakest. Definitely the weakest. And we've had some pretty so-so episodes this series. It's not exactly hard to fall below that, really, I have to say. I have to give it that. Because it does have some brilliant set designs and locations, and the Pating looks great. It does. It looks adorable. And again, character options, get me a plushie. Somebody get me a plushie of that Pating thing, because I want it. That Pating thing, that works. Yeah, it looks great again. The music was great again. It's got all the it's got pretty much, it's got the same things that we always praise every week. but it's got more, it's heavier on the bad things that have felt more in the background up until this point on the series. And this is the midpoint of the series, so really this should be the peak of the series. If you think about it, this should be the peak of, you know, of how well it's doing. It should feel like, you know, should feel like this great grand adventure and it's all peaking in the middle. This just feels like a strike down below. It just feels like they've fallen from what was an okay episode last week, a brilliant episode the week before, and 2 so-so episodes. This should be up there with Rosa. I thought, well, maybe they'll surprise me with this week. But I was not. I really didn't know what to expect from this episode going in, apart from that I didn't think it was going to be that good. But yeah, there's some great guest casts, there's some poor guest casts. But yeah, the story is all over the place, and it's not got the best dialogue. The music does feel tense, and the VFX, as always, is fantastic. DNEG should win an Emmy for the best VFX. I don't know how many times I need to stress that they needed to get an Emmy for the music and the sound, the music and the VFX. It's just, to be fair, I did vote for J. So what were my overall thoughts about episode 5 of series 11, the Tsuranga Conundrum? Well, it was a very poor episode, and it doesn't even meet the standards of the pretty average series that we've had so far. I mean, barring Rosa, this series has been very average in terms of plots and stories, but it has been off the scale with visual effects and music, and more off the scale than Doctor Who has felt on those parts recently. I mean, series 10 is all well and good visually, but it could have been better, and the music, apart from Bill's theme and World Enough of Time, some music there, the music doesn't really feel that big of a thing there. So it does have its ups and downs, this series, and feels very average. The endings and the writing just aren't working in terms of Chris Chibnall's work. I have felt that way for all of Chris Chibnall's work from Doctor Who that I've seen, from 42, Dinosaurs and the Spaceship. The only one where he's really stuck the landing is the Silurian two-parter, and really, he just copied that out of a 1970s story. So yeah, I mean, the Pating thing, that's great. The Pating thing. Get me a plushie of that, please, character options or someone. I would really appreciate a Pating plushie, even though I don't think it really works in the context of the story, and does feel like the concept of the alien does feel like it's been done millions and millions of times before. But yeah, the story, the dialogue just isn't working here at all, which is a shame because it looks great visually, as I've said. And the sets, it's the first time ever that I've really felt that the sets feel like an actual spaceship. Like, they feel like the best spaceship we've ever seen. Like, I know it's all clinical and clean, like the show has really, like the series has really done before, kind of, but to a higher standard, like the New Earth. Although, as much as I liked elements of some of the patients, there could have been more different types of patients with different types of diseases, and like it doesn't feel as high pressure as other Base Under Siege episodes have felt. It just feels sort of like it is just filler. It is the most filler episode of the series that we've had, and we've had the Ghost Monument, which is basically the definition of filler. And this just feels like even more. It's just some of the worst quality Who that we've had since the majority of, well, the Capaldi era is basically on par with this episode, and well, quite a few episodes of the Capaldi era rather are on par with this episode. Really, episodes like In the Forest of the Night, The Girl Who Died, you know, Kill the Moon, you know, episodes like and I think overall this episode feels really even more on par with episodes such as Sleep No More, which was really poor episode in fact, and this episode doesn't feel much better. But we have got a great guest cast. I mean, Suzanne Packer, who plays the General, Eve, she's great. The android is a bit, but there's a lot of cast that doesn't feel like it should be good. Like the pregnant man, just, not only was he a bad character, but he just why? It's just, this episode screams all together, why did we need this? Why is this here? Like, I would rather have skipped this episode and had 9 60-minute episodes instead, because why would we need all this episodes? It's one of the things that I think Sherlock does so well, that Stephen Moffat did, is they never really felt like there was an episode that was filler, because they all felt like movies. Like Doctor Who's constantly tried to go for this big movie angle, but it hasn't worked so well for them because they have so many episodes. If they really want to have a movie feel, they should shrink down the episode count, which they have done here, and shrink it down to maybe, I think Sherlock's an hour and a half usually, even an hour. Maybe just make 3 1-hour episodes, and it would be fine. I mean, it would be great. And also, you'd have consistent ratings. I noticed the ratings did kind of drop about 2 million from The Woman Who Fell to Earth to The Ghost Monument, and it has stayed pretty consistent. But you could have had a consistent throughout. Maybe you could have had about 10 million for each episode if you had 3. I mean, look at the ratings Sherlock did get. I mean, there isn't really much of a chance we'll get another Sherlock series. It doesn't look that way, certainly. But really, this is the evidence for why you should shorten the episode count on Doctor Who, or give them more time to develop stories, because I feel like if this episode had been given more time, and they had less lazy alien plot idea that I'd already done before millions of times, maybe we could have had a glorious episode here. I mean, like, you could have found, like, even if it was an alien thing, maybe that could have been the alien baby. I mean, it's fine. It would have worked. The thing could have worked if they'd been more threatening as well. So this episode just does feel very, very, very poor. And it's such a shame, because there was so much potential here, and it's just flaunted. It has felt like that. It feels like since Rosa, it has been slowly drifting away from that sort of pretty goodness of the last few weeks. Of the first 3 weeks. They were all pretty, the first 2 were pretty average, but Rosa was fantastic. I really felt from Rosa on we were going to get great quality episodes, but it never really materialised. I mean, Arachnids in the UK came, it wasn't fantastic, it was no better than The Ghost Monument, but it did feel a bit, I'm sorry, it felt like they were just trying too hard for that scare factor, and the plot was just slown over. Like, nobody really cares about the plots. It feels that way, that they're just glancing over the plot idea and just going for, oh, what will get us the ratings up. They're going for quality, they're going for quantity over quality, which is never a good thing. And I've never really said this about Doctor Who, because this is a shorter episode count. They're really just going for quantity over quality, because it has felt very much so, particularly in these last 2 episodes, they are just going for quantity over quality. I mean, quantity ratings, the spiders, they're just going to grab more ratings, especially coming up to Halloween. Based Under Siege is a crowd pleaser, and they have done loads and loads of them, so they need to give that concept a rest. I feel they should lean more towards the historical episodes, because, I mean, Rose is a great episode, and Demons of the Punjab looks like it's going to be really good. I just hope they do, they should have more historicals, because the futuristic ones have been done to death since the pure historicals were abolished all the way back in 1965, I want to say. Yeah, 1965, since the Highlanders, we haven't had a pure historical, and I feel that episodes like the Witchfinders could be a great historical. I'm learning about witchcraft at the moment in history, so that's going to be interesting. But it's just, I think Chris Chibnall really needs to, I don't know if this one was co-written by Chris Chibnall, but if it was, it really shows. And particularly last week, Chris Chibnall is not the greatest writer for Doctor Who, which is such a shame, because I know Jodie Whittaker can act. She proved herself in episode 3. She was good in episode 1 and episode 2, but episode 4 she's lost her way, and I don't know if we can find her again. Which means overall I'm going to give this episode a 3 out of 10. It just didn't work for me. It's just not working at all. But next week we tune in for the much more interesting looking episode, which is of course a historical, which is the Demons of Punjab, where hopefully Yaz will finally get something to do. It will be on BBC One at 7 PM and 8 PM on BBC America on next Sunday. So yeah, tune in for that and my review hopefully on Tuesday. We'll have to hope that everything meshes back together after being ill, so I hope that we can get show back on the road. But after that, thanks for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know I feel like I've rambled through this because I really did not like this episode, and there were lots of points that I could find that I didn't like about this episode. Just basically, Pating, you're mine. Like, I want that Pating now. And in short, the only good thing was the Pating and the general, really. I mean, there was VFX that were great and the music was great, but that's pretty much it. Like, this episode is just really low. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you did like it again. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching again. Bye bye!